Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we are on the fifth part of reading this first chapter of Easy Journey to Other Planets. And in the previous section, we saw how Srila Prabhupada is explaining about the anti-material activities. Particularly, he explained about the 64 limbs of bhakti, which are found in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as mentioned by Srila Rupa Goswami. Now, Srila Prabhupada only presented the first 20 non-negotiable things which one has to do, right, to advance in spiritual life. Of that 20, 10 are positive items and 10 are negative items. 10 one should do's and don'ts. And then Srila Prabhupada mentions the next 44 are actually sevas, okay, one can do to enhance. So these are, optional. The first 20 are non-negotiable. Of the 44, 5 are most potent, which we discussed, right? Chanting the holy names, staying in a holy place, reading Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, and worshipping the deity of the Lord. So if one does this, one can actually develop anti-material qualities or spiritual qualities. So now let us continue today's section, and this will be the last section of the first chapter's reading. So let us begin. There are instances in history of great personalities, including sages and kings, who attained perfection by this process. Now, this process here is that anti-material activities or devotional service, bhakti. Some of them attain success even by adhering to one single item of devotional service. So here Prabhupada is saying that he has given us a huge list of 20 items, and the last 5 items, at least in this book of the 64, 25 out of 64. So here are a list of now of great personalities, great kings or sages who perfect their life just by following one item with faith and perseverance. Some of these personalities are listed below. So what Prabhupada is listing here, as you can see, these 9 personalities that are going to come up, is actually a shloka. So before we read this, let us see this shloka, which comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, so that we can better appreciate this the 9 personalities. So the first, let's see. Shri Vishnu Shravane Parikshida Bhavat Vaiyasaki Kirtane. 2 people are mentioned. Parikshit is for Shravanam, for hearing. Vaiyasaki, which here is Sukadev Goswami, is for speaking. Prahlada Smarane Tat Angri Bhajane Lakshmi Pritu Pujane. 3 personalities are mentioned here. Prahlad for remembrance. Tat Angri Bhajane for the worship of the lotus feet is Lakshmi, who's always massaging Lord Vishnu's lotus feet. Pritu, King Pritu for worship. Akrurastvabhivandane Kapipatir Dasye Tasakherjuna. Another 3 people are mentioned here. Akruras, the uncle of Krishna, for his prayers that he offered to the Lord. Kapipati, this is Hanuman, right? Because he's always servant for his dasyam, for his servitude. And Sakyam, for friendship, Arjuna, one of the Lord's greatest friends. So first line mentions 2 people, right? Then 3 people, then 3 people again. So 8 are done. And last, 9th. Sarva Swatmani Vedane Balirabhu Krishnaptiresham Para. And for one who Sarva Swatma Nivedani, one who surrendered everything, including oneself, is Balir Maharaj. Bali Maharaj is mentioned. So like that, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 22-136. And this is what Prabhupada is going to present in the late 1950s, 1960s, when Prabhupada wrote this book. Before even establishing ISKCON, he set up these 9 personalities. He's mentioning this. Emperor Parikshit attained spiritual platform simply by hearing Shravanam from such an authority as Sukadev Goswami. Sukadev Goswami, he attained the same simply by recitation, kirtanam, verbatim, word to word, as of the transcendental message which he received from his great father, Shri Vyasadeva. So these are the Nava Vida Bhakti, 9 ways in which one can perform bhakti, right? These 9 ways are then expanded into the 64 limbs. 64 limbs, what we saw up above, are the practical ways of worshipping, but 9 are the 9 main categories, right? We always can categorize and then subcategories. So 9 are the main limbs and then 64 expanded. Prahlad attained spiritual success by remembering Smaranam, the Lord constantly in pursuance of instructions given by Sri Narada Muni, the great saint and devotee. Lakshmi ji, the goddess of fortune, attained success simply by sitting and serving Pada Sevanam, the Lord's lotus feet. King Prithu attained success simply by worshipping Archanam. Akrura the charioteer attained success simply by chanting Vandanam, prayers to the Lord. Hanuman, Mahavir, the famous non-human devotee of Sri Ramachandra, attained success simply by carrying out the orders, Dasyam. Arjuna, the great warrior, attained the same perfection simply by making friends with the Lord, Sakyam, who delivered the message of Bhagavad Gita to enlighten Arjuna and his followers. Emperor Bali attained success by surrendering everything unto the Lord, Atma Nivedanam. So here Prabhupada continues to say, these are 9 standard modes of devotional service to the Lord, and a candidate can choose to adopt any 1, 2, 3, 4, or all, however he likes. So question comes, where does these 9 things are mentioned? So actually this is mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj himself. This comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 5th chapter, 23 to 24 verses. So you can see Prahlad Maharaj is saying, Shri Prahlad Uvacha, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atma Nivedanam. He mentions this 9. Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu. The one should offer the Lord. Bhaktis Che Navalakshana. The 9 Lakshana, the 9 qualities of Bhakti. Kriyate Bhagavatyadha Tanmanyeditam Uttamam. It is the topmost, the best way. It is considered the topmost of all learning. Right? 9 ways, Navavida Bhakti, to please the Supreme Lord. So all the services rendered to the Absolute are in themselves absolute, with none of the quantitative or qualitative difference found on the material platform. So one should not think that out of these 9, which one is better, which one is, everything is perfect. On the spiritual platform, everything is identical with everything else, although there is transcendental variegatedness. So there is variety, but the potency is the same. Emperor Ambarish, now a king from Srimad Bhagavatam, Emperor Ambarish adopted all the 9 items. So here's another example. These are examples of people who did one of each. Now here's an example of a person who did all 9. And he attained perfect success. He engaged his mind in the lotus feet of the Lord, his voice in describing the spiritual world, his hands in cleaning the temple of the Lord, his ears in submissively hearing the words of the Lord, his eyes in viewing the deities of the Lord, his bodies in touching the bodies of the devotees, hugging them, serving them, his nostrils in smelling the flowers offered to the Lord, his tongue in tasting the food offered to the Lord, his legs in visiting the temple of the Lord, and all the energy of his life in executing the services of the Lord, without in the least desiring his own sense gratification. All these activities helped him attain the perfect stage of life, which defeats, right? Which defeats all dexterities of material science. However, material science is so expert, but this way of service beats everything. So let's see also, this is also a shloka. This comes in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th chapter, 18 to 20, 3 verses. Where here, very beautifully, Ambarish Maharaj, his seva in all the ways. Okay? Savai mana Krishna padara vindayor vachamsi vaikunta gunanuvarnane karau harer mandiram arjanadishu shrutim chakara chuta satkatodaye मुकुण्डलिङ्गालय दर्शने दृशौ तद्भृत्य गात्रा स्पर्शे अङ्गसङ्गमम् घ्राणं च तत्पादसरोजसौरभे श्रीमत्तुलस्यारसनां तदर्पिते पादौ हरे क्षेत्रपदानुसर्पणे शिरो हृषिकेशपदाभिवन्दने कामं च दास्येन तु कामकाम्यया Yatutama shloka janashraya rati. So he's saying here, my mind in remembering Krishna's lotus feet, my words in describing the qualities of the Lord, my hands in cleaning the temple of the Lord, my hearing, right, to always hear the katha of the Lord, right, and like that. I always want to see the form of the Lord, right, and so on and so forth, as we read. It is therefore incumbent upon all human beings, it's a must, it's a need, to adopt these principles of spiritual realization for the perfection of life. A human being's only obligation is spiritual realization. This is a very powerful line, that the only work a human being has or needs to do is spiritual realization, nothing else. Nowadays we say, I need to do economical development, I need to do some self-aggrandizement, I need to do some publicity, I need to be famous, I need to be rich, I need to be powerful. There's nothing like that. One just needs to be a devotee. One needs to get spiritual realization, perfect one's life. Unfortunately, in modern civilization, human society is too busy discharging national duties. Actually, national duties, social duties, humanitarian duties are obligatory only for those who are bereft of spiritual duties. A powerful line. If one does not have higher duties, one can do lower duties. So, spiritual duties are the highest of all, and all other duties. All other duties pertaining to state, pertaining to society, pertaining to service of mankind, whatever, they are known as secondary. As soon as a man takes his birth on earth, not only does he have national, social, humanitarian obligations, he is also obliged to the demigods, the devatas, because they are supplying air, light, water. He also has obligations to great sages, the rishis, who have left behind vast treasure houses of knowledge to guide him through life. So, Vedic life, spiritual life, Sanatan Dharma life is a life of gratitude. So many people have done so many things, and that's why we are surviving, actually. Right? We have water, we have air to breathe, we have knowledge coming down. We did not ask for it, it is there. We should give our thanks to everyone. We are obliged, we are debtors to so many people, and also to all kinds of living beings, isn't it? To his forefathers, to his family members, so on and so forth. We are debtors, we are obliged to so many people. But as soon as one engages himself in one single duty, which is the duty of spiritual perfection, he automatically liquidates all other obligations without having to make separate efforts. Very important line. This is actually a shloka that Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here. So let's look at the 11th canto, 5th chapter, 41st verse. Devarishi bhutapta nirnam pratarnam nakin karo nayam rini charajan. Sarvatmanaya sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihritya kartam. Deva, Rishi, demigods, great sages, Bhuta, other living beings, Apta, friends and family, Nirnam, ordinary people, Pitranam, forefathers. We are indebted to all of them. We are born in nice family, people take care of us. You have other living beings who are feeding us, cows gives us milk, so on and so forth. We don't make much efforts. Things are going on. Bees, because of bees pollinating, that's why we are getting flowers and fruits. So we are living basically because of the efforts of others. Nakin karo nayam rinicha rajan, right? All we are just servants of everything. We are debtors, O king. But sarvatmana yah sharanam sharanyam. If one has taken the shelter of Mukunda, Krishna, then he is actually free from all these debts because he is doing the greater service. He is paying to the supreme king, which is God, so he does not have to pay tax to anyone else. So a devotee of the Lord is never a disturbing element in society, Prabhupada is mentioning. On the contrary, he is a great social asset. Another beautiful line, Srila Prabhupada. People sometimes accuse devotees of being lazy, being neglectful, being escaping, right? You're running away from responsibilities. No, this is seeking higher responsibilities. By doing this higher responsibilities, all other responsibilities become solved. Since no sincere devotee is attracted to sinful actions, as soon as a man becomes a pure devotee, he can do inestimable selfless service to society for the peace and prosperity of all concerned in this life and the next. So Prabhupada is mentioning that because, see, sinful actions means a person is selfish. Like, why do people eat meat? Because they envy animals. Let the animals die, let me live. Right? They are envious of it. They're looking for their own satisfaction, the own satisfaction of the tongue. Let me break its legs, cut its throat, break its shell, and let me eat so that I live and it will die. So sinful actions basically means selfishness. So to the degree that we become spiritual and we are away from sinful action, that means we actually become selfless. And selflessness means to think of oneself less, so that we can think about others more. Therefore, a sincere devotee, Prabhupada says, it becomes an asset to society because they're always thinking about the peace and prosperity of everyone around them. They are the real well-wishers of society. Srila Prabhupada would always sign off, your ever well-wisher. Prabhupada is always the greatest well-wisher of society. But even if such a devotee commits some offense, let's say, because the world we live today, right, you can't escape sin. Even devotees who are working, they pay tax to the government, and that government uses the tax money to do maybe some nonsense, right? Sometimes government funds birth control. Sometimes government funds abortion, government funds cow killing. So some offense, some sin, some mistake goes even on the part of the devotee. What can be done? The Lord himself rectifies it in no time. The Lord corrects the situation. He'll help. Therefore, there is no need for a devotee to cultivate materialistic knowledge in one sense, nor does a devotee need to artificially renounce everything and live as a hermit. So, no extremes. You don't have to embrace materialism or you don't have to reject matter. He can simply remain at home, do your duties, execute devotional service smoothly in any order of life. Whether one's a householder, one's a brahmachari, whatever one may be. One can stay at home. Whatever you cook, cook as simple and natural as possible. Offer it to Krishna, honor it, study Shastras, hear, chant as much as possible, worship the deities, bring people to your home, connect them to Krishna consciousness. Your life will be 24 hours busy. There's so much activities. And there are instances in history of extremely cruel men becoming kind-hearted simply by the execution of devotional service. An example is Valmiki story, right? Hunter who became Valmiki, this hunter Mrigari. So many stories of cruel people becoming saintly. Knowledge and abnegation follow automatically. Knowledge and abnegation here means jnana and vairagya. So the Bhagavatam also mentions a shloka that, just by doing bhakti, jnana and vairagya automatically follow in the life of a pure devotee without his having to make extraneous efforts. So just by becoming a devotee, just by chanting Hare Krishna, following the principles, associating only with the devotees, taking part in the temple activities, automatically one gets knowledge. Right? Automatically one gets some renunciation for matter, some loose taste for matter. This spiritual art and science of devotional service is the highest contribution of Indian sages to the rest of the world. Therefore, everyone who has taken birth in India has an obligation to perfect his life by adopting the principles of this great art and science and distributing it to the rest of the world, which is still ignorant of the ultimate aim of life. Prabhupada is writing this being in India, thinking that he'll first preach to Indians and tell them to go and preach. But they will not do it. Prabhupada had to do it himself. This is actually a shloka which Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Bharata Bhumi hoila manusha janma yar janma sartaka kori kara para upakara. Bharata Bhumi hoil. You have appeared in Bharata Bhumi. Manusha janma jar. You have come as human life, right? Human life in Bharat, in India. Janma sartaka kori. Perfect your life. Kara para upakar. And then perfect the life of others. Human society is destined to reach this stage of perfection by gradual development of knowledge. Indian sages, however, have already reached that position, right? Long time back. Why do others have to wait for thousands and thousands of years to attain their heights? Why not give them to the information immediately in a systematic way so that they may save time and energy? There's no need for research. You don't have to search again. Everything has been done. One needs to apply. They should take advantage of human life, which they may have labored millions of years to attain. Human life, durlabham, very rare, this human form of life. Next, Prabhupada says, a Russian fiction writer is now contributing suggestions to the rest of the world that scientific progress can help man to live forever. So who's this Russian fiction writer? I don't know. In other places like in Srimad Bhagavatam, in one purport, Prabhupada writes, a Russian scientist is suggesting true scientific progress that man can live forever. Maybe it's the same person, we don't know. Of course, he does not believe in the supreme being who is the creator, is an atheist. Yet we welcome his suggestion because we know that actual progress of scientific knowledge will certainly take man to the spiritual sky. So Prabhupada says, I agree with him. Why? Because actual scientific progress means that you live forever. Where? In the spiritual world, not here. You cannot live forever here. When the world itself is temporary, how can you live permanently in a temporary place? Doesn't make sense, isn't it? The house is for rent and you say that I want to live here permanently. The house itself is for rent. How can you live here permanently? So Prabhupada is accepting his statement by saying that, scientific progress means spiritual science. If you progress properly, you will go into the eternal worlds. And inform the scientists that there is a supreme creator who has full potencies beyond all materialistic scientific conceptions. As mentioned, every living being is eternal, but has to change his outer coverings, gross and subtle. We discussed this in the last reading. And this changing process is technically known as life and death. the changing of the coverings. As long as a living being has to put on shackles of material bondage, there is no relief from this changing process, which continues even in the highest stage of material life, right? Even in the Brahma's life. The Russian fiction writer may speculate, as fiction writers are apt to do, but saner people with some knowledge of natural law will not agree that man can live forever within this material world. A naturalist can see the general cause of material nature simply by studying a fruit of the tree. Right? Someone who's into nature and science can just simply see how nothing is permanent in this world. A small fruit develops from a flower, right? From flower after pollination, right? And then germination, and then fruit starts to develop. It grows for some time, then it stays as a fruit for some time on the branch, becomes fully grown, ripens, and then slowly starts to rot, dwindle until finally it falls from the tree and starts to decompose in the earth, and at last mingles with the earth, leaving behind its seed, which is in turn grows to become a tree and produce more fruits and then meet the same fate and so on. It's a cycle. Right? We can see these are the 6 changes that are continuously going. Similarly, the living being, the Atma, the non-spirit, the non-material spark, anti-material spark, spiritual spark or part of the Supreme Being, takes its organic form in the womb of a mother, just like a seed takes the shape of a fruit. Just after sexual intercourse, it grows a little by little into a womb. It's born, then continues growing, becomes a child, a boy, a youth, an old man, an adult, and then finally dwindles and meets death. Despite all the good wishes and hopeful pipe dreams of fiction writers, right? Despite whatever we may say, good hopes and wishes, may you have a long life, Ayushman, Bhavati, whatever, everyone is ultimately going to die. By comparison, there is no difference between the man and the fruit. Like the fruit, the man may leave behind him his seeds in the form of numerous children, but he cannot exist eternally within this material body due to the law of material nature. How can anyone ignore the law of material nature? No material scientist can change the stringent laws of nature, however boastfully he may be, right? We may be very expert in bending the laws of nature, using it for our own selfish purposes, but no one can overcome the laws of nature. No astronomer can change the course of the planets. You may study the course of the planets, but you can't change it. He can only manufacture a paltry toy planet, which he calls a satellite, which moves around. Foolish children may be impressed by this and may give a great deal of credit to the inventors of modern satellites, Sputniks, etc. So Prabhupada is hitting a lot on Russia because Russia was the first to go to space, right? The cosmonauts at this time. They sent the Sputnik 1 in the late 50s. But the saner section of humanity gives more credit to the creator of the gigantic satellites, namely the sun, star, planets. These are also floating and moving, just like the small metal satellites that humans and of which the materialist scientists can see no end. If a small toy satellite has a creator in Russia or America, it is reasonable that gigantic satellites have a creator in the spiritual sky. If a toy satellite requires so many scientific brains for its manufacture and orbiting, what kind of subtle and perfect brain creates galaxies of stars and maintains them in their orbits? Thus far, the atheistic class have not been able to answer this. Right? If you require so much intelligence to make your Sputniks and your satellites, why do you deny that this whole universe is all functioning based on some great divine intelligence? Non-believers put forward their own theories of creation, which usually results in statements such as, it's hard to understand, they say like that. Our imagination cannot conceive it. But it's quite possible, Prabhupada says. It's comprehensible. It's quite possible, it is incomprehensible, and so forth. This only means that the information has no authoritative basis and is not backed by scientific data. Right? It is just a speculation. They simply speculate. However, authorized information is available in Bhagavad Gita. For example, instance, the Bhagavad Gita informs us that within the material world, there are living beings whose duration of life, here example is Brahma, covers 4,300,000 times 1,000 times 2 times 30 times 12 times 100 solar years. Again, we saw this in the earlier reading. This is the lifespan of Brahma. We accept that Bhagavad Gita as authority because this book of knowledge was so accepted by India's great sages like Shankaracharya, Sri Ramanujacharya, Sri Madhvacharya, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Bhagavad Gita indicates that in the material world, all living forms are subject to decay and death, regardless the duration of life. Therefore, all material shapes are subject to the law of change, although the material energy itself is conserved. As energy, everything is eternal, but in the mundane world, in the material world, matter takes shape, remains for some time, develops into maturity, grows old, begins to dwindle, and at last disappears. This is the case with all material objects. So therefore, the proposition that I can be eternal in a world that is changing, a world that is temporary, it doesn't make sense. The materialist suggestion that beyond the material sky, there is some other form that is outside the boundary of visibility, and that is strange and inconceivable. He said it is but a faint indication of the spiritual sky. They are saying true. There is something out there which is not like here, which cannot be understood, which cannot be seen, cannot be perceived. Right? That's true. That's spiritual. However, the basic principle of spirit is much closer, for it functions within all living beings. That is the Atma, the soul, that's spirit. When that spiritual principle is out of the body has no life. Within the body of a child, for instance, the spiritual principle is present. Therefore, changes take place in the body and it develops. But if the spirit leaves the body, the development stops. Right? Child at 10 years old dies, the body remains 10, starts to decay. It doesn't go up 15 years old, 20 years old. This law is applicable to every material object. Matter transforms from one shape to another when it is in contact with spirit. Then matter can change. Without spirit, there is no transformation. So you do not see suddenly this glass tomorrow becoming a plate. Right? They will not change because there is no spirit. But when it comes in contact with the spirit, for example, a mason or a welder or some artisan, so then it can change the shape of this. I'll melt it, I'll change it, I'll mold it. Why? This cup has come in touch with a spirit, a living being. The entire universe develops in that way. It emanates from the energy of the transcendence because of the spiritual force which is his, God's. And it develops into gigantic forms like sun, moon, earth. There are 14 divisions in planetary systems, 14 planetary systems in our universe. And although they are all different in dimension and quality, the same principle of development holds true for all. Right? We have some lifespan, they have larger lifespan, they have higher intelligence, different degrees of enjoyment. But ultimately, everyone is going through that same cycle of creation and destruction. The spiritual force is the creator, and only by this spiritual principle do transformation, transition, and development takes place. Life is definitely not generated simply by chemical combination or by any other material reaction, as many foolish men claim. Sometimes they say life is just because of some chemical reaction. That's how life is born. No. If not, you mix the chemicals and make life. It doesn't happen that way. Material interaction is set in motion by the supreme spiritual being, who creates a favorable circumstance to accommodate the spiritual living force. The supreme spiritual being handles matter in an appropriate way as determined by his free will. So God is the one that shapes, right, everything that has to happen. For example, building materials do not automatically react, then suddenly assume a shape of a residential house. Right? You put some cement, you put some stone, wood, and sticks, and suddenly on its own they become a house. No. A living spiritual being handles matter appropriately, knocking, breaking, cutting, shaping, and fixing. And by his free will, his desire, he constructs the house this way, that way, whatever it is. Similarly, matter is the ingredient only, but the Supreme Spirit is the creator, right? Only a man with poor fund of knowledge avoids this conclusion, right? Foolish person, Prabhupada says, will deny this. The creator may remain unseen in the background, but that does not mean there is no creator. For example, you go to a housing area and you see the plot, and you see there's someone coming and dumping all materials. And suddenly, after some months or a year, you see beautiful construction of a housing plot has come up. Immediately, someone doesn't say, wow, this material is so intelligent. How did the sandbags know? How did the cement bags know how to make the house? No. You understand, wow, the architect must be very smart, or the engineer must be very good. You have never met the engineer, you do not know an architect, but you understand by seeing the result that there must be a smart engineer, smart architect that was involved in this. One should not be illusioned simply by the gigantic form of the material universe. Rather, one should learn to discern the existence, to understand, to see the existence of the supreme intelligence behind all these manifestations. So here now reading Prabhupada, after talking about the spiritual counterpart to the material existence, he's saying that it's not impossible. Do not deny the spirituality. Do not deny the existence of God. One can very easily understand just by seeing, by using some little logic and perception, how about this world, one can accept that there is an existence of the divine. The supreme being, who is the supreme intelligence, is the ultimate creator, the all-attractive personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Although one may not be aware of this, there is definite information of the creator given in Vedic literature such as Bhagavad Gita and especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. So just because we don't know does not mean it is not true. Like you do not know the name of the engineer or the architect, but still you know there must be an engineer or architect. When a satellite is thrown into outer space, a child may not understand that there are scientific brains behind it. But an intelligent adult realizes that scientific brains on Earth are controlling the satellite. Similarly, less intelligent persons do not have information of the Creator and his eternal abode in the spiritual world, which is far beyond our range of visibility. But in actuality, there is a spiritual sky with spiritual planets that are more spacious and greater in number than the planets in the material sky. So many atheists, they say that I don't find any conclusive evidence that there is God, therefore I do not believe in God. So Prabhupada saying they're foolish, they're like children. What more conclusive evidence you need in this world? Look at all the creation, look at how things are functioning. Everything is going on perfectly, right? Things are as if happening automatically, but nothing happens automatically. You sit in one place and wait. Do you get your food automatically? No. So everything is coming, going, growing, functioning, creating, because there's some intelligence behind it. From the Bhagavad Gita, we receive information that the material universe constitutes only a fraction, 1/4 of creation. We learned this last time as well. Such information is extensively available in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures. If living energy could be generated in the scientist's laboratory by the interaction of certain physical and chemical combinations, why then haven't the boastful and material scientists been able to manufacture life? Prabhupada comes to his next argument. That if you say everything is just a combination of chemicals and energies and all, then you have that in your lab, create life, then put it together. They should know definitely that the spiritual force is distinct from matter and that such energy is not possible. So what is the origin of life? Origin of life is soul. Origin of life is not chemicals. It's not possible to produce any amount of material adjustment. At present, Russians and Americans are undoubtedly very much advanced in many departments of technological science, but they are still ignorant about spiritual science, right? So they are experts in all how to bend matter, how to shape matter, turn matter, but they're foolish in who they are, that they are not matter, they're souls. They have to learn from superior intelligence in order to make perfect and progressive human society. The Russians are unaware that in Srimad Bhagavatam, the socialist philosophy is most perfectly described. So Russians here put forward this communist philosophy, socialism, where socialism is most important. So he said Bhagavatam is also mentioning the perfect socialist theory. The Bhagavatam instructs that whatever varieties of wealth exist, such as natural resources, agriculture, mining, they are all created by the ultimate creator. They are the property of the God. And therefore, every living being has the right to take his share of them. This is very much communism, right? Everything should be equally distributed. Everything should be equally owned. That's what they say. It is further said that a man should possess only as much wealth as is sufficient to maintain his body, right? What is needed. And that if he desires more than that, or if he takes more than his share, he is subject to punishment. It is also stated that animals should be treated as one's own children. Right? So here it's mentioned some verses. This is from Prithu Maharaj section in Bhagavatam 4th canto, right? Where it said that Prithu ruled over his citizens, his praja. All living beings are considered the praja of the king. Every living thing living in the kingdom of the king are citizens of the king, right? Even animals. Therefore, animals should also be taken care. Living beings, everything should be respected. So we believe, so these are all communist principles that, truth for all, rights for all, wealth for all. And that is what Bhagavatam is also saying. But this is spiritual communism, where the center is God. Unfortunately, modern day material communism is that they want equal but no God, right? And therefore there's inequality. We believe that no nation on earth can describe socialism as well as the Srimad Bhagavatam. Living beings other than humans can be treated as brothers and children only when one has full conception of the creator and the actual constitution of living being. So when you want to say that, I want to love all, serve all, be friendly with all, that only can happen if we accept, right, that we are souls and that everyone is a living being. So universal brotherhood can only happen when one accepts universal fatherhood. Srila Prabhupada likes to say this. Universal brotherhood will only happen when you accept universal fatherhood. When everyone accepts the Father, the Supreme Lord, understanding that we are servants of the Lord, then real brotherhood can come. And ISKCON is a proof of this. We have people from Japan, China, Middle East, America, South Asia, where not. And all are serving together, functioning together. Man's desire to be deathless is realized only in the spiritual world. As stated at the beginning of this essay, Prabhupada is saying, a desire for eternal life is a sign of dormant spiritual life. The desire that I want to live forever, I don't want to die, that is actually the sign of we are souls. Because the body has to die, everyone knows. But you don't want to die, that means you're not this body. The aim of human civilization should be targeted to that end. It is possible for every human being to transfer himself to that spiritual realm by the process of bhakti yoga, as described herein. It is a great science, and India has produced many scientific literatures by which the perfection of life may be realized. Now, amazingly, ironically, Prabhupada will be the greatest contributor to Vedic literature. And in the future, he's going to write so many books, 80 over titles, which translated into so many languages. So Prabhupada is saying that there are already many books, but actually Prabhupada is the one who's going to give out the best of best books. Bhakti yoga is the eternal religion of man. Bhakti is the real religion, the real dharma. At a time when material science predominates all subjects, including the tenets of religion, it will be enlivening to see principles of eternal religion, Sanatana Dharma, of a man from the viewpoint of the modern scientists. Okay, because science is there now in everything we do. Everyone wants to be scientific, progressive. So see spirituality also from a science view. Even Dr. S. Radha Krishnan, right, admitted at a world religion conference that religion will not be accepted in modern civilization if it is not accepted from a scientific point of view. In reply, we are glad to announce that the lovers of the truth, that Bhakti Yoga is the eternal religion of the world and is intended for all living beings who are eternally related to the Supreme Lord. Because God is one, the process to love God is one, right? And we are all living entities. Therefore, Bhakti applies to everyone. And Bhakti has many flavors and fervors, right? One can take Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, in that different limbs. So there's a lot of variety. Sripa Ramanujacharya defines the word Sanatana, or eternal, as that which has neither beginning nor an end. When we speak of Sanatan Dharma, eternal religion, we take this definition for granted. We do not understand that what Sanatana Dharma means. Sanatana Dharma is not Hinduism. That's the modern day people say. Sanatana Dharma is that which never has a beginning, never has an end, constantly going on. Eternal Dharma of the soul, which is to love and serve God, knowing who God is. That which has neither beginning nor an end is unlike anything sectarian, which has limits and boundaries. In the light of modern science, it will be possible for us to see Sanatana Dharma as the main occupation of all people of the world. No, nay, of all living entities of all the universe, Prabhupada goes on to say. Non-Sanatana religious faith has some beginning in the annals of man, but there is no historic origin of Sanatana Dharma because it eternally remains with the living entities. The other religions, you can track them. There's some founder, some starter, someone who brought it up, someone who started, someone who propagated it, someone who propounded it. But who propounded or propagated or started Sanatana Dharma? No, there's no one person named to it. When a man professes he belongs to a particular faith, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, whatever sect, because of the particular time and circumstance of his birth, he is identifying with his designation. Such designations are called non-Sanatan Dharma. A Hindu may be a Muslim, or a Muslim may become a Hindu or Christian, etc. But in all circumstances, there is only one constant. These are all variables. In all circumstances, he is rendering service to others. He has to serve others. A Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, Christian is in all circumstances a servant of someone. The particular type of faith professed is not Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma is the constant companion of the living being, the unifier of all religions. Sanatan Dharma is the rendering of service. So the proclivity or the propensity to render seva, right, to serve, is actually what Sanatan Dharma is. And whether you're a Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, Chinese, whatever, everyone has a desire, everyone has the ability or inclination to serve, right? As Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Jivera Swarupa Hoy. What is the Swarupa of the Jiva, the soul? Krishnera Nityadas, the eternal servant of God. In Bhagavad Gita, there are several references to which is Sanatan. What is Sanatan? Let us learn the import of Sanatan Dharma from this authority. Let's see Bhagavad Gita. There is a reference to the word Sanatanam in the 10th verse of the 7th chapter. So let us look 7th chapter, 10th verse. Okay. So Krishna says, Bijam mam sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimadam asmi teja tejasvi namaham. So what is Krishna saying here? The Lord says that he is the eternal fountainhead, the origin. Sanatana means he is the originator of everything and therefore is Sanatanam. The fountainhead of everything is described in the Upanishads as the complete whole, Purnam. All emanations of the fountainheads are also complete in themselves, Purnam Adaya. But although many complete units emanate from the complete Sanatan fountainhead, the Sanatan head does not diminish in quality or quantity. Right? So here's Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Spiritual maths, that one, if he manifests into many, he remains complete, they also remain complete. So basically 1 minus 1 is still 1. Or 1 plus 1 is still 1. The originator is perfect, his emanations are also perfect. And we don't see in this world something like that. You have 10 oranges, if you give out 3, you will remain with 7. It's not perfect. But here's the Lord who expands. He still remains perfect 100%. And his creation is also perfect in itself. That is because the nature of Sanatan is unchangeable. Anything that changes under the influence of time and circumstance is not Sanatana. Therefore, anything that changes whatsoever in the form of quality cannot be accepted as Sanatana. To give a material example, Prabhupada says, the sun has been disseminating its rays for hundreds and millions of years, yet although it is materially created, its form and rays are unchanged. Therefore, that which is never changing cannot change in form or quality, even though he is a seedling source of everything. The Lord claims to be the father of all species. There's also a verse in Bhagavad Gita. Of course, here it's mentioned Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam. But there's another verse in Bhagavad Gita 14.4 where Krishna says Sarva Yoneshu Kaunteya, all kinds of species, Murteya Sambhavantiya, that appear, that take birth. Tasam Brahma Mahad Yonir Aham Bija Pradapita. I am the seed giving father. All different varieties of creations. Krishna says he is the origin. He claims that all living beings, regardless of what they are part and parcel of him. Consequently, the Bhagavad Gita is meant for all of them. In the Gita, there is information of this Sanatana nature of the Supreme Lord. There is also information of his abode, which is far beyond the material sky, and of the Sanatana nature of the living beings. This is all mentioned in Shastras. The eternal nature of the spiritual world, eternal nature of the Jiva, eternal nature of God. Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also informs us that this material world is full of miseries in the shape of birth, old age, death, and disease. Even in the topmost planet of the material world, Brahma Loka, these miseries are present. We have discussed this in this chapter a few times. Only in his own abode, there are total absence of misery, Vaikuntha. In that abode, there is no need of light or sun, moon or fire. The planets are self-illuminous. Life there is perpetual, full of knowledge and bliss. These are all qualities of the spiritual world. That is what is known as Sanatana Dharma. It is therefore natural to conclude that the living entities must return home back to Godhead to enjoy life in the Sanatana Dham with the Sanatana Purusha or Purushottama, Lord Sri Krishna. Perfect world with the perfect person. They must not remain to rot in this miserable land of material existence. There is no happiness in this material sphere, even in Brahma Loka, even the planet of Brahma. So plans and activities for elevation to higher planets within the material universe are carried out by those who are less intelligent, right? Foolish people, they want to just advance or get ahead in this life, but they don't understand that life will reset them. They're moving ahead, trying to get up, trying to achieve something, and then at the end of their life again resets them. Again, they start. Again, they try to jump up. Again, they resets. Have you seen those pet stores? They have these guinea pigs or small rats. They run up the stairs, they fall down. They run up the stairs, they fall down. They run up the stairs, they fall down. So human life, material life is like this. Right? You visit this place, you move that place, you earn this, you earn that. Again, you come back. What is the point? Temporary enjoyment. Might as well aspire for eternal enjoyment, eternal life. Less intelligent men also take shelter of demigods, devatas, who only derive benefits which endure for a limited period. The demigods, the devatas, they give some benedictions just to leave you for some time. Thus, their religious principles and the benefits derived from their form are only temporary. This is also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. The intelligent man, however, abandons all engagements in the name of religion and takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and receives absolute protection from the Almighty Father. Sanatana Dharma is therefore the process of Bhakti Yoga, by which one can come to know the Sanatana Lord and his Sanatana abode. By this process, only one can return to the spiritual universe, the Sanatana Dham, and take part in the Sanatana enjoyment prevailing there. So because this article began with anti-material world, anti-matter. Now matter is temporary, anti-matter means eternal. Eternal means Sanatan. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada is saying Sanatan Lord, Sanatan abode, Sanatan Dham, Sanatan enjoyment, and we are Sanatan also, Sanatan Jiva. Those who are followers of Sanatana Dharma, not modern professed Hinduism, but Sanatana Dharma, the actual Dharma of the soul is to love and serve God, understanding who God is. Henceforth, take up those principles in the spirit of Bhagavad Gita. There is nothing barring anyone from adopting these eternal principles because everyone is a soul. So actually everyone, be it Hindu, Muslim, whatever, actually everyone is Sanatana Dharma. Even persons who are less intelligent can turn to Godhead. This is the version taught by Srimad Bhagavatam by the Supreme Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Mankind should be given a chance to take advantage of this opportunity. Because Bhagavad Gita was spoken in the land of Bharata Varsha, every Indian has the responsibility to broadcast the message of real Sanatana Dharma in the other parts of the world. Especially at the present moment, misguided men are suffering in the darkness of materialism. The so-called learning has enabled them to discover the atomic bomb. Right? After finding atoms, they create an atom bomb which is going to destroy the world. They are consequently on the verge of annihilation. Sanatana Dharma, however, will teach them about the real purpose of life and they will benefit by its propagation. So like this, we have completed the first chapter of this book. Very interesting. We took 5 parts to read it very systematically. And our next reading will continue with chapter 2. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.